week ends with a much needed win. Welcome to the Blue Monday podcast. Right, how are you feeling about this then, Dave? Because I've got to admit, I was pretty grumpy during the week, pretty downbeat, and this will sound terrible now because you've just given me a 4-0 win. We need to put into context against the worst team in the league. So given that that's exactly the result we needed, but it was against the worst team in the league, with the backdrop of everything, how are you feeling first, Dave? Good evening.
Yeah, evening, Ben, evening, Rich. Yeah, look, I tell you what, you judge it by. So always usually meet in the greyhound every home game, and there's a blackboard at the front of the greyhound every single home game, and they're multitude of staff, to be fair to them, they have on a Saturday. So, Rich, how many people fill in their prediction on this blackboard? 20, 25?
Yeah, 20, 30, yeah.
20, 25. And it did range from, there was one, I think I saw one outlier that said 0-0, and it ranged from pretty much 3-0 to 6-0, I think. That was a sort of kind of expectancy. If that was a sort of like a mean of the expectancy level yesterday, there you go. But yeah, professional performance and a little not expected win, but yeah, professional performance, and I feel okay. Move on, MK.
Okay, MK. What about you, Rich?
Yeah, similar. Yeah, I mean, Seb asked me the question in the pre-match show, like if there were ever a team that you wanted to play right now, who would it be? It's like, well, yeah, Forest Green. I mean, it's pretty obvious. There's always the kind of added jeopardy of Duncan Ferguson in the opposite dugout, and I don't know about you, Dave. I quite liked his stag do evening wear attire that he was going with, which was very fashionable.
Shirt outside his pants. We like that. Yeah. But agreement with Rich.
They pants though, isn't it?
They were pretty terrible. I don't think we'll be. Well, we won't be seeing them next season, I'm sure, one way or another. Let's hope it's one way. But
can I just read that one quickly? Michael in the chat. By the way, hello to everyone in the chat. If you're listening after the fact, do join us on YouTube. Draw with the top team and the season is over. Beat the bottom team and we're making the top two. That's tremendous.
Calm down, Michael. That's not me talking to someone else. Sorry.
That sums it up, doesn't it?
That's brilliant. Look,
it has been. Do you know, we did a lot of the time, Rich, when we've been doing this podcast, it's been with a divided fan base. And it felt like the bad old days of the divided fan base, because some people were a bit antsy and then they would go a little bit too far in their antsiness. And then the positive people would tell them off a little bit too much, which would make them double down, which would make the positive people double down even more, that anyone saying any criticism whatsoever. Can we please just land right in the middle with this tonight, right, Rich?
Yeah, well, we said as much, and I mean, we're probably on the preachy side of that spectrum, right? And we had our moment on the pre-match show. I just of the general opinion, Ben, that negativity leads to nothing positive or constructive anyway. But we also respect people's right to use their social media accounts as they see fit. And as long as, the atmosphere, I was a little bit anxious about the atmosphere, if I'm honest. But the fact we scored the early goal, spoiler alert, made that kind of redundant, really. But yeah, we just need to, now we've got win back on the board and we've got a good run of games coming up. Let's just focus on positivity. That's exactly what we want.
I just think it was the nature of Tuesday night. It was so deflating, wasn't it? Look, everyone was deflated. We try to keep upbeat on here, but it was a tough one because it was such a poor performance, really, wasn't it?
I'm really glad we decided not to do the live show straight after it, because it would have been 60 minutes of
testy, and then
but Dave,
and then the capital.
It's not unreasonable at the moment. I know Rich uses the word negativity, and I do agree that when it goes from realistic kind of analysis to just negativity,
it's emotion, isn't it? It's emotion.
It's emotion,
but it's not unreasonable on the current run and after that performance. Criticism is reasonable at that point and going into this game, right?
Definitely. And I think, you say the manager brought him on himself again. It all came down to the rotation. Maybe that was an easy hit on the manager there. We couldn't beat Bristol Rovers, drew 0-0. Probably could have lost the game. The manager's an easy target with the yet again rotation. And he did it, to be fair, he rotated again yesterday. However, I think we'd all agree after yesterday, I think you've perhaps got to stick with that starting 11, certainly for next Saturday. Injuries permitted.
Rich, the whole rotation thing, Dave's right to bring it up, is so viewed retroactively. We're all sitting there in the middle of the week talking about how brilliant the Plymouth manager is because he's rotated. And, Darren Moore did it yesterday for Sheffield Wednesday. And they're winning games. You lose a few games when you rotate. Keep the same team, keep the same team, keep the same team. We do kind of view that a little bit wise after the event, don't we?
Yeah, there's always stuff that we don't know about as well. I thought Mick Mills was I was walking up the hill post-match listening to Mick Mills, and he wanted all the big money transfers in January to start straight away and stay in the team. And that's ultimately what we ended up with on Saturday. And I think that will probably persist. But he was of the view that McKenna has eased them in where he probably really didn't need to. But Broadhead's had a few injuries or knocks, hasn't he, and stuff like that. But I part of it, Ben, I think, is McKenna knows some of the issues with the way we're playing right now, and the easiest thing to do, we know there's no need for a plan B, because you execute plan A fine, you win matches. It's sometimes down to personnel and people in specific moments, and that's why you rotate. You try and find the people in the right situations and figure out whether you can trust people, and I think that's what McKenna's been doing of late. And ultimately some of it will be Saturday, Tuesday rotation, which you got to do. But I think I agree with Dave's kind of sentiment there, that I think probably this feels like our strongest team now. Maybe question mark over Hurst and Ladapo perhaps, but yeah, I think the new signings have to start.
Questions, Rich.
Yeah, and even Luongo, is stake to claim, even albeit like a half an hour cameo. Yeah.
So in the
I think we do have to put it.
Go ahead, Dave.
I think we do have to put it into context, because they were poor.
I was just going to say, in the first 6 minutes, I think we've covered all our realism backdrop caveats here. We're aware that Forest Green, even with now, and we'll talk about their personnel in a sec, we'll get into the in depth in the game, even with their little transfer window splurge, changing the manager, they're not looking up to it. And we've also acknowledged reasonable criticism is probably okay this week, and people have probably gone too far either side. Shall we, having covered all of those bits, actually get into this? So the backdrop being Forest Green coming on a terrible run with Duncan Ferguson just having arrived. I think he's got 1 point, possibly now, I think in 5 games. So the mythical new manager bounces I'm very suspicious of is as flat as a pancake, really. Richard, we'll go with you first on the Ipswich 11 there. So, and I think I'm paraphrasing you, but strongest on paper for whatever that means. So Walton in goal. Footmob's got it as a back 4. So Davis and Clark, the fullbacks, Burgess and Wolfenden, the centre-backs, your double pivot, Humphreys, Morsey, inside forwards, Broadhead, Burns, Chaplin, off, Hurst. Strongest 11, Rich?
I think so, Ben. Yeah, I think with what we've got, I think a few people were hoping that Luongo might be fit enough for a start, but the fact he was on the bench was positive. But, our central midfield options are what they are right now. Other than that, I think Harness has had a bit of a tough run of late, didn't really do much Tuesday night. And I think having seen what we've seen from Broadhead, it makes total sense for him to be starting. And Hurst, I can kind of understand as well. I know there's a lot of support for Ladapo, and probably we underestimate a little bit Ladapo, or not underestimate him, but maybe don't give him the credit he deserves. But Hurst was the number 1 target in the summer. Didn't happen for whatever reason. You've got him in January. We need to get him up and running as well. And against this opposition, with respect, it made sense for me to start Hurst as well.
Dave?
Yeah, completely agree. I think okay, Luongo's he was obviously a signing. In the window, he has been struggling, has been out injured. So yeah, the other 3, Clark, Broadhead, and Hurst. Yeah, I agree with Mick Mills there. I think he signed them, played them, had to play them, especially yesterday for sure.
I think someone had already pointed out here in the chat as well. The midweek games now, we might see a fairly settled 11, and by that 7, 8, 9 the same potentially. And an interesting tweet, actually, we'll get into it in the questions, I'm sure, from Panchute Kamara early on today. Let's have a quick look at Forest Green. Big thanks to David in the chat. It's a staple of our podcast list now, isn't it? Saying thank you to David. €5 in the super chat.
All those beers we got to buy him during that weekend.
we got to buy that bloke
Here's
a
the
brewery.
Greyhound.
Blooming egg.
Not a beer. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Greyhound.
We'll plug our Telegram and whatnot, but this will always be free. But you can obviously support via Super Chat, as David has just very kindly done. Forest Green, bottom of the league, came up last season with Rob Edwards in the dugout with two excellent wing backs rather, one of whom is now at Bristol City and one is at Barnsley. An excellent central midfielder called Ibu Adams, he's at Cardiff. Two strikers, I think, Jamil Matt and Matt Stevens. They're now both at Walsall. It's just a different club that's come up, isn't it?
It's even different from the game we played against them, Ben.
It's different from bloody December, Rich, isn't it?
Two survivors from the game in August, albeit two of them on the bench as well. And it would have been three, but Carl McAllister, I think, got injured in the warm-up and was replaced by Jordan Garrick, who's a name that we might know. I think he was at Plymouth possibly on loan last season, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's at Swan, is he? I think.
Yeah, and Bakayoko
to Lincoln, yeah.
A familiar name, Bolton and Coventry striker. But yeah, it's not looking good for them, is it?
And young Charlie Savage.
Yeah.
Is that Robbie Savage's boy, is it?
Yeah.
Interesting. So yeah,
his debut, yeah? Was his first start, Rich?
No, not yesterday, on Saturday.
Yeah.
No, he's played a few. I think he's played a few games.
Okay.
Well, you check that. So yeah, doing in goal, he was at Tranmere for the most part this season. I think in League Two. Bernard, Casey, Cooper, Robson, Stevenson, Savage, O'Keefe. But Harris is on loan from Brentford. Some calibre there. Garrick, Bakayoko. But on paper, it looked like a nice game for a team. And this is Kieran McKenna's words, not mine. Short of confidence. And Dave, there's been games this season where we've huffed and puffed and struggled against the, sort of low block, defense sitting back. There's been games we've scored early and it's just opened it up and swept it away. And this was the case yesterday.
Yeah, it was. I think we'd had a half decent chance even before we scored. I think in third minute, I think the keeper sort of straight to the keeper, which was a bit of a feature yesterday at times. But yeah, I mean, it's a really good goal. Burns gets the ball wide right, tries to play a little ball inside to Chaplin. I think it's Savage actually. It might just gets an interception. Morsey picks it up, and this is really good. Plays the ball, plays a little disguise pass pretty much to the edge of the D, central in the box, and it's a classy touch from Broadhead, isn't it? He sort of swivels on it, but plays a little first-time ball, perfectly weighted, and it's just a picture goal because Chaplin's so good in those positions, and he just times his run brilliantly between, I think, Bernard and the other centre half, and just strokes it in left foot. He goes cold. He's really good in those situations, and shame he's not from 12 yards. But anyway, and just squares the keeper up and just passes it in the corner. It's a really good goal. The assist from Broadhead in the finish is it's a classy goal. That very good.
Am I allowed to mention Paul Scholes in relation to that? But Scholes wouldn't have telegraphed it with his body so much. You wouldn't have even known it was going in that corner. But
Scholes would be looking there.
Yeah, the Broadhead part in the goal is probably what makes it for me. Chaplin, I thought might have been offside as well, but I don't care.
I checked that earlier. It's just very badly, as Dave says. And I've played five-a-side with Dave, and passing your man on, and neither of them. Then they just let him go. He looks onside to me.
But the key for me. Something that we talked about after Tuesday was Forest Green certainly didn't do the low block, which probably, I mean, it's like choosing between being stabbed or shot if you're Duncan Ferguson in terms of, do you stick a low block and just hold on as long as you can and know that the game's over, or do you try and make a contribution in an attacking sense? And to be honest, the early goal kills them, doesn't it? It's so I really feel really sorry for them, but
it's game over.
We need the confidence booster, but what we had seen on Tuesday was against these low blocks, sometimes the passing's too purposeful, it's too slow, and Broadhead makes that. And it's similar with some of the moves in the second half as well. It's just one touch stuff. There's no thought in it, or it's instinctive. And Broadhead's got that ability. And of all of the things that I took out of Saturday's game was Broadhead's ability to spot those passes. He's really clever at finding the space, but he finds those passes instinctively and gets them in really quick. And that's what we need in the low block situations. It wasn't what Forest Green were doing, but it will be what others will do. And it really bodes well.
Now, Dave, did I see this right? Because I was watching this with about 500 monitors. Did I see fairly narrow men getting forward, a few long throw-ins get tucked in as well? Did I see a bit more of an intensity, a bit more of a...
I think you certainly did. I mean,
what does Paul Warren say? He says, make defenders defend. Sometimes
yeah, no, you certainly did.
Yeah.
Certainly first half, Clark, I mean, it was a lovely... I mean, this would have been a picture goal. Clark drops a ball from his own half, drops the ball over the defence. Great run by Hurst. You'd have liked this. Don't know if you saw the highlights, Ben. Unbelievable first touch. Takes it out of the air.
Yes,
and he's a little bit unlucky. Then he tries to cushion volley it over the keeper, and he just gets a bit too much. I mean, that goes in. I think Rich probably said, on a Telegram, that would have been one of the goals of the season. And certainly Burgess yesterday as well was sort of dropping those balls in left foot for Hurst as well, and consequently later in the second half of the Dapo as well. So yeah, I would say certainly there were signs in there. It was all a bit. It was one or two strange moments first half between in front of me between Clark and Burns. Where tell you what I like about Clark, man, when he passes a ball, he means it. He really passes it with intent. And it was a couple with really well struck passes. All right, not in front of Burns, but perhaps to Burns' feet, and he just sort of didn't bother almost. I mean, I think
he miscontrolled him. I think, yeah.
Well, yeah. Once,
that's what I thought I saw.
Once, but it was another couple. Almost, I didn't think he was so used to playing with Donasson, he doesn't get perhaps the same, I don't know, zip on the ball. Doesn't expect the pass at the same pace. But yeah, that was quite strange first half. And yeah, again, if I'm being critical at all yesterday, Burns, I don't know. Could he? I don't know.
He had an effort, didn't he, first half? But I wanted to pick that out, Ben.
With the left foot, Rich.
Yeah, well, there you go. And he said, he was cutting in a lot on him and Aluko swapping places on Tuesday, which I didn't really like. But I think there's a positive and there's a question mark for me there. And I've seen a lot of people talk about this as well. Clark, I would put it down to Clark is used to the intensity of Championship football with Stoke and being through the Arsenal. There's no point taking, you get that pass and you make it. And I think once Clark and Burns get on the same wavelength, I think,
I'm sure.
We talked about how potent the right-hand side was last season. If they can get it right, then that's going to be a massive threat for us. Again, we've got Davis on the left, but I wonder whether Jackson might be quicker of thought in that situation as well, especially if you can play it ahead of Jackson. I mean, Burns isn't slow, but there's an interesting thing there. And I think once they suss each other out, I think Clark will be a really big threat for us, Ben.
I'm just going to read. He's an athlete, and he's a proper athlete, Clark. Flipping
read a couple of comments. I like this one from Chris, Dave. I think you'll find both Chaplin's goals near the penalty spot. Touche, Chris. Touche.
Yeah. But it's all right when the ball's running in front of you, Chris, or coming across you. Yeah, fine.
There's a couple on Burns.
Stationary, mate.
Mark, I think our right wing is the easiest job in football. So much space. Burns very wasteful. Dan says Burns got used to having the ball played to his feet. Clark was playing it in front of him.
And I think that was an instruction, Ben. I think McKenna would probably has encouraged that
off the boil at the moment. Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure. I think it's again. I don't want to be really critical because
Stephen agrees in the chat there. Burns not quite on it, not as.
But he's got goals and assists last
season. I know you can. Yeah, you can make the argument back with them. We've had this all week, haven't we? Like we're not
in
winning,
argument mode now, Ben.
And then, but we've had this. We're not winning, and I've seen every metric to say that we're good. But we still come back to we're on a bad run, and there's that kind of. I don't want to get into all that matters is the league table. The only thing that matters is the result mode. But sometimes you do have to just go. Well, okay.
Whether he's lost a little bit of confidence, he was so direct last season. You were so used to him getting the ball, squaring the fullback up, getting it out of his feet, whipping the cross in. He's perhaps this season he's perhaps just not quite so decisive. Is that the right word? Maybe.
Yeah.
I do think he set a very high bar last year. So if you're going from A+ to B- or whatever, it's it's still all right. Anyway, Richard, take me to this. Which team caught us out with this corner? Was it Peterborough, where you take it in short, you then make the angle really shallow to someone caught us out with that, didn't they?
It feels like that. don't know whether the Peterborough goal was a free kick or a corner, but yeah, it did feel similar
Something
to
like
that kind of short move. But
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
And it's and what's great is that I mean, it's a training ground routine, you'd guess. But we're so potent. It's the word of the day, isn't it? I need to come up with vocabulary, some different ones. But we know the threat that our set pieces pose to opposition. They will know about as well. But the short routine, I can't remember a short routine with a goal since Evans on the opening day, perhaps. So it's great to see it come back. Morsey's involved. Humphreys, nice kind of direct ball straight into Broadhead, and what a cute volley. I mean, he's right in front of the goal, isn't he? But really good technique. Keeper's not saving that, and a nice time just before half time as well, just to steady everything and build more confidence and set up the second half to try and get some more. But yeah, really tidy goal and set pieces again working for us.
What you're saying at half time, Dave, is it, look, you're 2-0 up against bottom of the league. I've got 5 subs. I want more goals and I want a clean sheet. Would it have been something like that?
I was saying exactly what you said about that Shrewsbury game 2 seasons ago.
That's gone down in Blue Monday folklore.
Oh, mate, that's gone down in the annals. The annals of Blue Monday. Ben, we're going to win the league by 10 points. Not convinced, mate. Not convinced.
Absolutely not.
No, I mean, do you know what? This sounds a bit crass and a bit, I don't know, self-righteous, but my God, we should have been 5 up at half time. If we're being uber critical, we just kept finding that. It sounds stupid. We just kept hitting the goalkeeper, didn't we? Just straight down the middle. Bit unfortunate time. Brilliant bit of skill by Broadhead on the edge of the box. One move where he sort of chests it down, takes it in one movement, makes the space, cracks in a great left foot shot. Again, point blank, good save by the keeper. I think Chaplin also had one. Burns might have had one. Seriously, at half time, it was 2-0. But when it was 1-0 up until the 41st minute, you'll think, this is a bit disappointing because, again, we've had all these chances. So, we got the second goal, 41st minute. Yeah. So to go in at 2-0 was right and proper because it could easily have been 4, 5 or 6 easily.
I was thinking, I've seen all the goals down the other end, Ben, and I'm in the north stand. I want some up this end, please.
Give me something to look at. Dave, do you want to take me to the third goal? Is there any subs before that? Yeah, Luongo comes
just before,
in. Yeah, like literally a minute before. And I tried to get Sam Parkin to big up Leif Davis last night, whose numbers are, speaking of fullbacks with good numbers, Rich, there you go. I'll undercut my own argument against you there by picking up another fullback with a wide man with good numbers. But yeah, just talk about was Chaplin
I think Burgess wins a header as he did most of the game yesterday. I thought he had a very good game, or he wasn't unduly challenged, was he? He didn't really have much up front, to be fair, but I thought what he did really well. Wins a header. I think gets it forward to Broadhead, I think, again on the edge of the box. Good bit of play there, gets a ball down, turns, and as usual, Davis is outside him on the left. Perfectly little weighted ball to Davis. And Davis is so good in those positions, just cuts the ball back across the 6-yard box. And again, it's another brilliantly timed run by Chaplin, I think. Sort of slides in, doesn't he, right in front of you, Rich? Sort of slides in. I wouldn't say it's 12 yards, Chris, more like 6, 7, 8 yards out.
He's rattled, Rich. Listen to that.
Slides it in, good finish, low under the keeper. 3-0. Yeah, looking forward to some more.
Rich, because I knew you were on, I checked the players' average positions on SofaScore because I know you would have done it as well. Broadhead, second striker. Chaplin, much deeper than you would have imagined. And I suppose, like Dave's saying, it's like a third man. It's like a Matt Holland third man run from deep for the cutback, isn't it?
Yeah. And you can't spot him either because they've got Broadhead and Davis overlapping. And again, I want to pick out Broadhead's pass instinctive into Davis. Davis threads the needle as well, by the way. There's about 6 Forest Green players that he threads the ball through. And that's the kind of frustration, I guess, for folks bemoaning some of the service from the other side, perhaps from Burns or Jackson. Davis always seemingly finds a blue shirt. Chaplin's, it's like the Tommy Miller kind of edge of the box kind of situation, isn't it, from all those years ago? And yeah, Chaplin's, is it 4 games he's got a brace in now? A crazy amount of conversion there from him. As I said, I wanted to single out Broadhead again because he doesn't even think about it. It just plays it into the path of Davis. There's no put a foot on the ball or cut back and maybe shape to cross it. He knows exactly what's going on around him. Really clever play. And Chaplin's instinctive in those situations.
Yeah, it's a simple ball, really, but it's also such a nice
So
weight on the
weighted,
ball.
easy to kick it out of play, isn't it, Dave? For that,
Yeah.
Stay with you for the fourth goal, Rich.
Yeah, well, there's a few bits and pieces of nonsense going on. The Forest Green did have a few moments of possession in our half, in and around our 18-yard box as well. A moment where Christian Watt went walkabout, which got everyone a little bit excited, especially people with a bit of a bee in their bonnet about Walton. But I think other than that, we were generally okay. But the triple change, Ladapo on, Jackson on, Edwards on for Hurst, Burns, Broadhead. I think Hurst had his moment in the first half, but didn't really show up in the second, if I'm being honest. Clear that he's got talent, just needs to get that league goal. And I think he then goes on a bit of a run. Burns, we talked about. Broadhead took a bit of a whack, but I think is okay. But I think, real standout for us. But the Bobby Robson applause. It was obviously the celebration of what would have been his 90th birthday. And 78th minute, the applause begins. And there's a goal for Ladapo, who comes off the bench, and shout out to Cameron Burgess, who I think has got an assist here, heads it back across goal, and Ladapo completely unmarked, can't really miss from close range. And good to see him reminding everyone that he just keeps scoring these goals, and everyone thinks he just scores tap-ins. Well, there's some ability about that. You don't just turn up and score tap-ins. It takes effort, and it takes concentration and being in the right place at the right time. So I'm pleased for him. I'll let Dave talk about his one in the 90th minute, though, which, not particularly good. But 4-0, great stuff. It could have been 5 with Davis. He'd have deserved a goal. Did you see the shot, the outside of the boot, where they have the post in the 81st minute when we're applauding that moment? But comfortable, Ben, after, it would have been great to get 5 or 6. I think that would have been a fairer reflection of the game, frankly. But I think
crazy, it would have been. It really would. Yeah.
I think the problem, not the problem. If I'm being super extra critical, I think if I'm Kieran McKenna seeing Ladapo miss that chance in the last minute, I'm kind of thinking, well, we need to score every kind of presentable chance. Like, I don't know what the XG is on that one, Ben, but it's probably 0.6 or 0.7. It's a really chunky chance right in front of the middle of the goal to not even get it anywhere near the goal. To me, just it's like if it's a 0-0 game and that's the chance, and then we miss that, I kind of think, oh man, but it's okay because we're 4-0 up at that point. But that was the lingering thought in my mind.
He could have volleyed it in, couldn't he?
He could have side-foot volleyed it.
It was an odd one. He was like 6 yards out. The ball comes and I don't know what he's like, stooping header, like very much like the goal he scored at Exeter. Exactly the same, pretty much. Exactly the same position. Where I think Harness knocks it and it bounces, though, to be fair, and he sort of goes in with his head. This one he meets with his head and somehow contrives to put it past the post. Well, may have even been 4 yards. Yeah, it's a hell of a miss, but hey, And it's a shame because 5 would have been about right, I'd have said. Let's have a look. We're not being churlish. 4 is great, but it probably
5 is better
the match
than 4
as a whole. 5 would have been about more.
I feel I need to wind this back and reapply the context, because we've enjoyed talking about hammering a team. Forest Green are terrible at the moment. They're on an awful run. They're the worst team in the league. They're bottom of the table. I think we need to probably say that every 5 minutes to make sure this conversation is kind of anchored properly, Dave.
Bad. They were bad.
Well, let me do the numbers and you'll see how bad it was. So 61% on the possession, 2.17 to 0.16 on the XG, 25 shots to 4, 0 big chances for FGR. Did they have any shots on target? Even I probably need to scroll down.
They had one
to Walton.
They had one, didn't they?
First
Rich
half.
that dipped, sort of looked like it's going miles over, but dipped quite late. But I don't think
there was a deflection on it.
Yeah.
It took it wide. There was also a shot, I think, a low, really acute angle in front of the North Stand as well in the first half, which I think was straight at Walton as well. So they had a couple of moments, but nothing major. And on target, Ben, I don't know if you picked out these shots on target, 12-0. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So, look, the reason I'm labouring it is because if say you're me, and I'll make this about me rather than, when people say, oh, Ipswich fans think this or think that, well, I'll say what I literally think because I'm responsible for my own brain. But if you're like me and you're a bit grumpy on Thursday or Friday, and a bit concerned with where the season was going, trying to get your head round what's going wrong, because like we say, there's a wise ass stat for everything actually being fine, despite the fact that there's not that many points going on the board. And again, that's me trying to be realist, not negative. Yes, this is great. 3 points is great. Clean sheet is great. It's exactly what we would have hoped for. But does this change much? Just to see where I'm going with this. How do I value this 4-0 victory at the end of a bad run, Dave, against the worst team in the league? I'm struggling, as you can hear.
Well, look, we went to Bristol Rovers I know it's away. We went to Bristol Rovers Tuesday. They've been on a terrible run as well. They take 2 points from us. Could have been, let's face it, could have been 3. So, we've had similar. We've had Cheltenham, we've had Lincoln at home again. Probably even similar
Fleetwood.
stats. Those games, similar shots, similar stats, probably. But Cheltenham and Lincoln have come out with 1 point. So. It's an odd one, isn't it, with us? Because nothing's ever a given, is it? I mean, if ever there was a game that should have, but was, and ultimately was yesterday, yes, yesterday. But you just never know. I think that's the beauty of it. You just never quite know with this, don't you? So next weekend we're going to MK. They just conceded 10 goals in 2 games. So you think,
yeah,
okay,
that's just come up in the chat.
That's the quiz.
There you go. And whether Mark just said there, great result 4-0 if we go and get 3 points on Saturday, because then I think we've got Burton and Accrington at home consecutive. Accrington, Burton, is it? I think
we will get onto that. You can come in on that, Rich. Charlie's just added in the chat, points on the board and a confidence boost.
Yeah,
not wrong with that. I can't disagree.
Can only beat what's in front of you.
I think in response to Charlie, in my insecure, anxious state as an Ipswich fan, I want a big smack around the face. Everything's brilliant all over again. And I don't get it from beating Forest Green 4-0, Rich. Do you see where I'm going with this?
Yeah, I agree. It goes back to the point you were making at the start, Ben, though, because you look at the run we've been on and those results are not as good as they should be. But the performances have not been terrible. No one is turning us over. We're not losing matches. So the idea that there was a major problem in the first place, I think, is probably what's been overblown. Every game, I think there's a different context. And there's kind of in my mind, there's kind of a mental checklist of the things that I want to see. So Forest Green, win the match, right? We haven't won a game I can't remember, Morecambe. Win the bloody game. No excuses. Don't muck about. Just win the game. I don't, to an extent, I don't care what the score is. And then if you're going to win the game, right, what can we get out of it? So the play and the low block has been the issue around how we deal with that. So we need to be quicker on the ball. We need to be decisive. We need to create better quality chances, score the early goal, keep a clean sheet. We're ticking them off as we go. Broadhead makes a contribution as a big January signing. Clark makes a contribution as a big January signing. Luongo comes off the bench, makes a contribution in half an hour. I'm ticking them off. But as the guys have said in the chat, it's not the real quiz. The real quiz is Bolton, let's be honest, at the end of the month into March. But MK and then it's beat Accrington, and then it's etc. So I there was enough there on Saturday, I think, that kind of allays some of the concerns that we've had in the previous weeks. But you have to sustain it longer than just Forest Green.
I think Mark was right in the chat. If we're sitting here next Sunday evening and we've got 3 points from MK with a relatively unchanged side, I think, from even if not whatever, but hopefully with a relatively unchanged side from yesterday, and we're sitting here, yesterday's result with job done. I think we'd all be feeling quite a bit better, particularly as next weekend Derby are at Barnsley, for instance. So
Plymouth are at Peterborough.
Plymouth are at Peterborough. Wickham are at Shrewsbury.
Don't be explaining to me why our fixture's better than theirs. I don't like that. We don't get nice things, do we? Right, what we're going to do, guys, we'll do that next. We'll have a look at what went on yesterday. We'll have a look at everything else. We'll go to questions after that, and the chat's moving beautifully tonight. So particularly, I'm interested in the Ladapo Hurst thing. I think that's a good fun debate. Just hold on to them for a second. And if you do put a question in, stick a question mark at the end of it, because otherwise I won't see it. The chat's moving really, really quick. Rich, do you want to do some pluggery while I prepare the League One bits and bobs?
Yeah. So we've got, we'll figure out the shows because a few of the Team Blue Monday are at the FA Youth Cup game on Wednesday night, so there won't be a Wednesday show certainly. But I think probably what we might do is do some pre-recorded stuff with ITFC Women. We are one of the sponsors for their game against Watford next Sunday. It'd be great if folk join us down the AGL Arena for that one. I can put details on our Twitter. So we'll talk to a couple of players, and I think Kieran Stanley, as we always do, to big up that one ahead of time. Otherwise, usual business, pre-match show out Friday morning, flagship show back here again next Sunday for MK Dons. And I think probably we might have a promo. I keep missing the promos for the merch store, but we'll certainly sort one out. Telegram, get involved in that as well. It's been great, as we keep saying, when in the chaos.
You get every statistic in Telegram that tells us we're good and there's nothing to worry about.
Exactly.
I've been seeing them all week.
Yeah, if you want your mood lightened in lots of different ways, including
It's a happy
confirmation bias and echo chambers. No, it's not. It's not that at all. It's much more rational, certainly.
I've had such a grumpy week, Rich. Don't worry.
Over to,
it's more a reflection of me than
You've
the
been
lads
ill, inward and outward.
Lads and ladies as well in the Telegram group.
So all the bits and pieces you ever need for what's going on with, here at Blue Monday is Blue Monday ITFC.co.uk. We've got a website, don't you know? So everything you need is on there. So and join us in Telegrams. Great.
Yeah, it is good. It is good. Right, let's dive in. Accrington Stanley 1, Shrewsbury 0. Shrewsbury's good run comes to an end. Bristol Rovers 1, Burton 2. Any mention of Burton's budget in the post-match? No, let's move on.
Oh, wait. I've got Bristol Rovers get to join the club of losing the game after holding Ipswich, along with Cambridge, who lost to Barnsley in their next game, Oxford, who lost to Wickham, and then haven't won a game since. In fact, they've gone loss, draw, loss. Lincoln, who held us, then lost to Charlton.
Are we taking credit for all of this?
Portsmouth, who held us, then lost to Charlton as well, and Cowley got sacked. So if you manage to hold Ipswich to a draw and you're not in the top 6, then you can expect to win your next
relegation
game.
Form.
Yeah.
Well, Cambridge 1, Oxford 0. Carl Robinson in a bit of bother there. I'm sure one of you guys will come back to this one. Cheltenham 0, Barnsley 4, and their finishing was on point. But I have had a look at their fixtures. They've got the worst fixtures out of the top 6. Some tricky ones coming up there. Derby 2, Charlton 0. Probably come back to that one. Lincoln 0, Pompey 0. Draw number 7,000 for Lincoln this season. Morecambe 0, Posh 3. We're not worrying about them for the minute. Interesting. Plymouth 0, Fleetwood 0. Only the second time Plymouth have dropped points at home this season in 16 games, which is mental. Port Vale 1, Exeter 0. Wednesday 5, MK 2. Wednesday brought back 3 defenders now to fitness, and despite the fact Michael Smith and Josh Windass have 31 goal contributions between them, were able to bring Lee Gregory off the bench yesterday, who also scored. They look well strong. So do Wickham, who have won 5 on the trot. And I noticed, if we're talking about playoffs, Wickham, since the middle of December at Adams Park, have beaten 3 of the 4 teams in the playoff positions. Ipswich, Derby, and yesterday, Bolton Wanderers, who have been red hot. Let's go to Dave. Dave, talk to me about Plymouth and Sheffield Wednesday. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I mean, perhaps a bit of a surprise, given, as you say, Plymouth's almost exemplary home record, which is just unbelievable, really, isn't it? I saw the brief highlights on. I was going to say on your show, Ben, on the EFL show.
Ben's responsible for
well,
it.
we know it is, but I didn't want to big him up too much. Yeah, you know.
The puppet
saw the highlights.
I'm not taking any of the complaints about it.
Fleetwood had some chances, but what I gather was pretty much the last kick of the game was like a 30-yarder from Barley Mumba, which you probably would have expected to bury itself in the top corner, and went wide. So. A surprise there. Sheffield Wednesday just march on. I mean, I heard they were 1-0 down, then heard they were 2-1 down after about half an hour, and then a couple of guys behind me said, "Yeah, they'll win, though, won't they?" So,
here it comes.
There was a pen that looked a bit, I'd say dubious. I don't know, deflection from Smith, but fair play. You know, they pressure told, I think, in the end. But a really good goal. I think the first MK goal was an absolute thronker, wasn't it? I think by
Lecco.
Who
what a
who
hit that was.
Sometimes looks like Mr. Ballon d'Or. He's got a touch of the J. Emmanuel Thomas's about him.
Bloody
With his,
stop
Darren
it.
Moore should know all
consistent
about
stuff.
him, shouldn't he? Yeah.
Absolutely roared it in.
Ace's
But,
goal was good as well.
Yeah, Ace's goal was very well taken as well. But yeah, they're just strong at home, aren't they? They really strong. Everyone, not just at home, crikey, they're strong everywhere. So, yeah, I mean, maybe signs of if we're really straw grasping, signs of perhaps a slight chink in Plymouth's form, but
still scored 7 points this week, Dave.
Yeah, I know. So yeah, we have to take we have to take little sort of victories where we can. Sort of, as I said, grasping at straws a bit, but yeah, a surprise nonetheless.
What I will say, and we'll bring Rich in on the other playoff candidates. I believe I'm going to try and memorise this. 3 of the next 4 Plymouth games are Peterborough, Derby, and Barnsley. So
Ouch.
I've had circled on my calendar
Ouch.
March the 11th for a long time because I've thought if we, and this maybe goes back more to December type thinking, if we were behind, say, by 5 to 7 points, we weren't going to catch them once that was all done. That's been my look at it. But things changed. But Richard, so Bolton, I wouldn't be too bothered if I was a Bolton fan. Look, it's Wickham away, and Bolton have been really, really good. Derby kind of back at it, and they'll look to build another run. Barnsley are really, and I'm interested, like what Dave was saying. Barnsley are really on it, and if they go through this run of games they've got, I think they've got like 5 of the top sort of 6 or 7 in the next 7 games. They're gonna be the ones, and then the horrible sight of Wickham in 7th position in form. You do not, because if they're 6th as well, you've got to go there first in the playoffs, and that's what did for MK last year. They lost it in the first game.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on the playoffs after all those horrible thoughts, Rich?
I much preferred it when we were debating whether it's a 3-horse race about 2 months ago.
Yes.
Everyone else has this upward trajectory. Barnsley probably the biggest of that. I mean, let's not pretend that Cheltenham are in good form right now. They've got a couple more wins of late than Forest Green have managed to achieve, but they're a beatable team, and they're a better side. But Mike Duff knows all about them as well, doesn't he? So true. I think the issue for me was they just score lots of different types of goals and quality free kick from Phillips, wasn't it? The third one in that, and Norwood doing what Norwood does as well. That kind of worries me a little bit as well. Norwood would love to have a say, wouldn't he, in the whole proceedings. Derby, Paul Warne is always the bit that worries me about this. If we could get our form right, I mean, that's the most important thing, isn't it? It doesn't really matter what it's cliche. If we just keep picking up the wins, then it won't really matter. But then you have to start thinking about.
Rich, sorry to interrupt. Whoever you meet in the playoffs is going to be a 1.7, 1.8 points per game side. That's how league tables work, right?
Yeah, and let's not pretend that Peterborough are out of it. If Peterborough, I know they're a bit patchy.
They never beat anybody in the top half, do they?
Yeah,
which is bad for playoffs. It's like us for the last 5 years or whatever.
But you just got to keep. All of us have got to keep winning, and more so us. But I just wanted to briefly shout out Corey Ndaba, who is obviously on loan at Fleetwood, so proving that the loan system is working in our favour as well. He made a contribution, didn't he, to that point? But yeah, Derby, all of them worry me, Ben. And to be honest, given the relative form of late, that's why winning against MK, having won this weekend, is so important. We need to go on a run. It feels like it's our turn, but it's really easy for us to say that. You've got to put it in, haven't you? Put the effort in and get there. But all of them don't. Yeah, you wouldn't want to play them right now, and that's why Bolton in March doesn't really excite me as a game to play. But who knows?
Got to be done.
You're going to have back
4 wins. You never know.
Playoff football is literally back-to-back games against the top 6 team, isn't it? So, even though it's natural fan anxiety, it's got to come. Guys, get your questions in. We'll go to questions imminently. I think we've already done our pluggery and whatnot. We'll speak a little bit about MK coming up and Mark Jackson and what's going on there in the Wednesday defeat. That'll obviously be done in far greater detail in the pre-match show. Well done, Paul. He saved my waffle in there with a question. Get your questions in.
He's even put a Q at the start for you. There he is.
Right.
And
now,
a question mark.
Hey.
So the guaranteed way to get your question read out. A is a compliment to me or an insult to either Dave or Richard. Is a guarantee of your question being read out by me because I've got control of the thing at the moment. But yeah, Q and a question mark. That's great. Dave, we'll go to you. Who of the January signings do you think has the potential to make the biggest improvements to the team for the rest of the season? Based on what you've seen?
I mean, I think Broadhead
so
has shown so far, hasn't he? He's just he's especially at that level. I think he's a class above. To me, he looks that way, and probably given the injury situation and the little sort of cameos we've seen so far, and this is by no means disrespect to Cameron Humphreys, but I think he was starting to perhaps struggle with the physicality and the Saturday, Tuesday. Maybe Massimo Luongo might be if he can stay fit, might well be an inspired signer. But what I've seen so far, Broadhead is he's fitting in the team really well, I think, and I'd always be looking to start from now on him and Chaplin.
Can anyone just write the words of what Kamara tweeted in the chat so I can put it on the screen? Richard, Dan, who's one of our Telegram lads, isn't he? With Broadhead's injury record, are you gambling on starting him every game, or do we continue to manage his minutes?
I think when you've got no midweek games, then I'm fine with him starting. Obviously, we've got Accrington in a few weeks. I'd hope that.
Such good options, Rich, as well for 60 minutes. Yeah,
I'm always been a big fan of Harness. I quite like Harness's get in your face and score a goal kind of attitude. And he's had a bad run, obviously. I'd really love him to turn that around. And we will pick up other injuries. We just need to hope it's not Broadhead, because I think he's a big player. So to Dan's question, I'd want him to be playing as much as he can. But if we've got an Accrington midweek and the Saturday game's coming, you probably rotate him out, don't you? But you stick him on the bench. So as much as you can, you need to milk Broadhead. That sounds wrong, doesn't it? It's like saying pluggery. Always it's weird coming out your mouth. You know what I mean? We paid big money for Broad for very good reasons, and I think we're starting to see it now, aren't we?
There's all sorts of mention of his name on the Telegram group. Someone even called him Broadchurch, which I thought was quite funny. In terms of Broadfoot, Broadstairs, Broadstairs,
very nice.
Chris Broad.
Dave, Adam, would you bring back JD so he continues his partnership with Burns? Does that work with a back four?
No, I don't think so. I think as Rich said earlier on, I think you persist with Clark. What was that? Sorry. I think you. I think so. It threw me a bit there.
Putting all the compliments.
I'm a child. I think you persist with Clark, and hopefully the Clark Burns combo scales the same heights, or if not more than Danassian and Burns. Look, is it a bit harsh on Danassian? It's such a tough one, is it? Because clearly, I think Clark has been brought in for looking perhaps at seasons ahead. He's certainly been brought in potential, but he's had his best two games, certainly I thought against Morecambe, and also obviously yesterday. I don't think he certainly wasn't his best first half against Sheffield Wednesday, for instance. And perhaps not at Cambridge as well. So it's a hard one there, but I think Rich is right. I think you have to persist. He's been a big money signing. From we understand, 7-figure signing, and you keep him there to keep him in to develop his relationship with Burns down the right.
Let's move it on. Can I take this one, Michael? I won't read the other bits out. Dave, go.
No, I was just going to point out, Michael, there's a significant age difference, mate. So we'll just leave it at that.
And I've got more grays than him as well, despite the significant age difference.
How many
points over the next 3 games? Well, our podcast mantra of at any point over any block of games that's more than 2 points per game works. It depends whether you guys are still in that top 2 mindset, in which case you do want your 7 or your 9 going into the Bolton game. The next 3, for the record, by the way, are MK and then home to Burton and home to Accrington. Obviously, we'll do MK in detail at the end of the week. Burton's interesting because they can score past us. It's just chaos. They'll throw everything. They are not going to sit there. It might be a BTTS nice one and a nice comfy win. And Accrington, you obviously we know from experience much rather play them at home than away. But in answer to the question, if you take 6 points, we normally give that a big tick. But maybe if you're looking at Plymouth's games or other people's games, maybe you want 7 or 9. Richard, what do we got here? AD, do you think Kieran McKenna knows his best 11 now?
Yeah, I think he probably does. I totally agree with Dave's assessment on Donacien, by the way. I think that back four seems it for me now. I think we liked Edmondson giving us an option there, but I think Burgess coming out of the team, I know that we bemoan the rotation, but Burgess did need a little bit of a kick up the arse. Not that he'd been terrible, but he'd just been unfortunate, I think. And he's come back and done a lot more. I think Evans starts if he's fit instead of Humphreys. So that will be interesting to see whether Humphreys or Luongo, who comes out on that battle. But as I don't know if someone's put Kamara's tweet.
I couldn't find it. I don't know what his Twitter handle is. I saw it earlier, but he said it's something like "good things come to those who wait."
Kind of thing. Yeah.
Simon is. Yeah. It looked as if to say, "I'm training properly, full contact, changing direction, everything next week." Is my knowing nothing is my complete subtext of reading.
It also
that tweet.
seems that John Jules isn't too far away either, is he? Although he not? Didn't I read somewhere that he was supposed to be back last week, but was ill, sick, or something?
All the Instagram perverts have got his training and his off the running machine and whatnot.
I think he's been a big miss. I think he was just really starting to show, wasn't he? I think he's been a big miss, but
yeah. So I didn't really answer the question. I kind of
you didn't. You answered the previous one that I gave to Dave.
Yeah, sorry, but I think he knows. I think he knows 90% of it. I think Ladapo is probably on form the better choice up front, and then it's who's the other central midfielder. And for me, if he's fully fit, I'd have Luongo just because I like that Sheffield Wednesday bullied us, and I quite like Luongo and Morsey in my central midfield. I think that'd be quite good against most teams in this level. So yeah. I think.
Am I right in saying that Hurst last year, Ben, at Portsmouth, went on a streak after Christmas and literally scored all his goals in the second half of the season? Like, I don't know, did he score something like 10 and 15 or something quite impressive? I'm not sure.
Just remember though, that being a big man and playing for my best mate Danny Cowley is like it's like liking burgers and living in between a McDonald's and a burger. I don't know, I was trying to do a good little pithy analogy there, Rich, but it didn't come out right. Mark, if Ladapo and Chaplin both get 20 goals, Dave, does that see us get top 2? Does this go into lots of people are finding lots of lovely positive stats that don't necessarily prove that makes you a winning football team? I'm not having to pop up Mark for doing that. Where are we? Chaplin's 14 and Ladapo's 11. It doesn't guarantee anything, really, does it? Have I lost you, Dave? Or are you just laughing at me?
Sorry, who are you talking to? Oh, it was for me, was it?
Dave. Yeah.
Oh, to me. Oh,
yeah.
What was the question? What was the question? Oh, 20 goals. 20 goals. If they both score 20 goals
every week, 8 to 9.
I saw that. I knew that.
We talk about football, Dave.
Yeah? No, it doesn't. Unfortunately, this season, no, it doesn't.
He's thinking about the hair comment. He's
I can't get over
not
that.
only the Chaplin penalty, he's been rattled.
What was I going to say? No, if they both score 20 goals this season, no, that doesn't guarantee us top 2. I'm afraid, Mark. I don't think, just because of the ridiculous nature of this division at the moment. So that would mean, did we say Ladapo's got? Has he only got 11 league goals? 11
or 12? I don't know what he's.
Chaplin's got 14. Chaplin's got 4. I mean, you could see Chaplin.
11 for Ladapo.
In fact, if Chaplin now doesn't get to 20, I think he'll be pretty disappointed. Well, I think we'll all be disappointed if he doesn't.
He used to get a hat trick, doesn't he? Poor guy.
Yeah. He was not happy at being substituted yesterday, by the way. No, he did, which is a great thing.
I just think this whole blah 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 20 goal striker conversation. I think what people mean is not literally a football player who scores 20 goals, but I think people are saying a striker who's your focal point, who will win you games by being. Do you know what I mean?
Prolific,
they're two different things rather than Connor Chaplin banging, like Richard says, lots of braces and coming from deep. Is that your focal point? Ian Rush striker who will score in every big game you play. Okay, bad example. Pick one of the all-time greats. But do you know what I mean? I think people sometimes take 20-goal striker a bit literally, as in a footballer who scores 20 goals. It's what that player means to the team. I'm babbling. Let me do a couple more. Here we go. Dan's got the. This is what Panchute Kamara said. Everything comes to you at the right time. Be patient and trust the process. So he's basically in the team next week on the basis of those comments. Richard, do you think Hurst, this is from Paul, do you think Hurst would have anything in the loan deal to say he must play?
That's
no,
a good point.
Seems harsh on Ladapo at the moment. I think those things are, I think Kieran Maguire did a bit on this on Price of Football, that they're old wives' tales, aren't they? You have to play in minutes and people just wouldn't sign them. Is that
doesn't
right
feel like
that?
the kind of thing that we'd go for, if I'm honest. If I just think he started because it's Forest Green. I think Ladapo starts next week, possibly.
Oh, you're probably right. He started because you think Forest Green, get a goal, get your confidence up.
Exactly right.
Yep.
Max, Dave, do we sign Hurst and TJJ permanently next season? It's a good question, that. If we don't go up.
If we don't go up.
Joey Barton will be pleased with that, won't he?
Yeah, blimey. I'd have thought... I'd have thought John Jules would be perhaps more likely than Hurst.
Is he out of contract?
I know where you're going with it.
John Jules.
John Jules, I think he might
Chat will tell us.
Yeah, I think Hurst isn't, because he signed that 4-year deal. The trouble with Hurst is Leicester's valuation, I think. You get him on loan again, don't you?
I'd have thought John Jules would have been more of a potential permanent than. However, if we go up, then are we looking at something with a higher spec, maybe? Don't know.
There you go. That's a good question. We'll do one more there. Stuart, do you think we'd still be in the top two if Kamara and Ball had remained fit? One for your sliding doors list, Richard?
Yeah. I think the Ball situation...
We'd be closer, I think, wouldn't we?
I totally agree. Yeah, I think Ball is the kind of midfielder that we've missed, and it's that Charlton game. That Charlton game's a sliding doors moment, Ben. Ball goes off injured. John Jules goes off injured.
It's like the Crew game in 1998. Remember that one?
But yeah,
Mark Rivers.
Yeah, Kamara. I guess we don't really know much about him, do we?
Steve McCauley.
There you go.
He was just last season. Kamara for Plymouth was just absolutely outstanding.
Craig loved him, didn't he?
Absolutely brilliant player.
Oh, we didn't mention Player of the Season, Ricky Marper getting a harshest of red cards, did we? The weekend, sorry.
He didn't protest, did he?
He knew.
I think if we can get Kamara, if we can keep Luongo fit, we can get Kamara fit, and also John Jules.
Top two, Dave.
Embarrassment of riches.
Embarrassment of riches. Right, we are nearly there, guys. Chat on fire today. Brilliant stuff. Lots of insults from Rich and Dave, which I'm here for. Lots of compliments for me. Ignored all the insults for me, which is my right to do here as being in control of the desk. And questions outstanding. Please do, if you haven't already, check us out on Telegram. It is behind paywall. We have to pay the provider for that each month, but you do get 2 weeks free trial. We are winding down here just to say MK Dons, which has been a bit of a away party in recent years with lots of big. Do you remember Tuesday night one with like 3,500 fans? Ipswich love to go to MK Dons. Did win that game under Paul Lambert. It was 0-0.
John Nolan?
Last time. Yeah, great finish as well. He was weird, John Nolan. He could
finish.
He looked very bad at football sometimes, but now and then would arrive. Do you remember his header at West Brom? It's a hell of a goal.
The 1-1, the Darren Moore last game, yeah.
Yeah, it was like 15 yards out and just bulleted in the corner. Yeah, it's a hell of a goal. But anyway, John Nolan, you can still find him at Tranmere, Mickey Millen. Is that right?
Not sure he's playing though, but yeah.
No.
No.
So MK Dons very, very quickly. Dave, have they really improved since Liam Manning went and Mark Jackson came?
Well, as I said, they've just shipped 10 goals in the last two games. So
You were going to say something else
abysmal
then.
from set plays against Bolton. Hopeless.
Absolutely
Absolutely
honking, wasn't it? Saw it. So you would think they are there for the taking, but then so were Bristol Rovers. But look, yeah, as we said,
Are you going, Dave, Rich?
No, I
Yeah.
can't. I've got to do in Ipswich to go to fairly early that evening, so I can't, unfortunately. Oh, I would have certainly gone. You going, Rich?
Yeah. 6,500, isn't it? So good atmosphere, hopefully.
Yeah. Went last year, and a nice Wagamama before.
Oh,
last
you
year.
love to see it. Yeah. Did you get a
Lovely,
tea-stained
mate.
egg?
Superb. Yeah. Sorry, did I what?
Did you get a tea-stained egg?
Oh, I can't remember, but
kimchi.
yeah, it was all right. And
Found
found a parking.
yeah.
And found a free
buns or
parking
whatever you call
space
them.
literally 5 minutes from the ground on this little sort of like.
Yeah, good luck with your parking
Industrial.
and your food and drink needs at
Book it in
MK.
advance. Yeah, I'm not telling you where I booked
yeah.
mine. I'm very
Book it
happy
in
with
advance.
it.
Right, Which when are we back this week with a preview?
I don't think we'll do it live. It'll be out Friday morning. If we
Friday
get
morning.
if we get it in the if Seb and I sort ourselves out, we had technical issues Thursday. We'll try and get it out Thursday night if we can, but Friday morning it'll definitely be there.
Cool. All right, guys. So yeah, the long and the short of this is I'm less grumpy than I was last week, but I'm not fully out of my funk. And Richard's right. It's that bloody Bolton game coming up, isn't it? That's going to tell us way more than we know this week. Last word from you, Dave.
Well, do you know what, Ben? I was thinking when you said about grumpy. Back in the days, you were grumpy because you'd been when we used to be meet at the pod bunker, and that was basically because of lack of sleep. Because you'd had a gig in Manchester the night before and got back at like 8 that morning or something. So you pretty much used to it, to be fair. And just one thing, really good luck to the Town Academy under 18s on Wednesday. Really looking forward to that big game against West Ham, who are absolutely flying at the top of the division. So yeah, looking forward to that.
Lovely stuff. Last one from you, Rich.
Yeah, what Dave said, and have a great week, everyone. Let's be a bit more positive, shall we? But
let's all stop arguing with each other.
Let's just get on with each other. Let's just
feel the love.
Just get along with each other.
Feel the love.
Thanks everyone for joining us live. If you haven't subscribed to our socials, be good to yourself and each other.